Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
Movie.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex? Klopex.
Klopek. Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Cult Film and Review. I am your host, Cody Everett. This week we are doing a special episode with a guest here. Hal's here, so we're going to talk to him about his favorite cult movie, which is actually Peter Jackson's Bad Taste. Without any other crap to say, let's start the show. All right, guys, we are back, or we're here. We're not even back from anything, but we're here. We're going to go over our weeks real quick. We have a special guest in studio. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, I'll go over my day.
Your day today?
Yeah. Hungover because of the party last night. It was someone's girlfriend's party last night. So
We are all
hungover.
hungover.
What time did you leave?
I got home at like 2:30.
Okay, that wasn't that bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
I thought you were maybe like this guy, Mike, over here, who got home at like 5
I fucking heard
a.m.
that.
I got home at like 2:30, woke up at 8, then got ready, went to work, was hungover the whole day, ate a bunch of McDonald's, which was a bad
Terrible.
choice.
Oh,
Why?
man.
What did you think that was going to do?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You just felt like shit and you wanted to just build off
Yeah,
of it
So
even
much
more?
sodium to dehydrate you even more.
And then even after that, as I'm driving home, I had to hit a nail because the hole is the perfect size for a nail. I got a flat tire on my right front tire, and I had to have the neighbor whose house I pulled in front of, who's not my neighbor.
Somebody's neighbor.
Yeah, somebody's neighbor helped me change my tire. He's a nice guy. He was a really nice guy, very helpful.
What was his name? Let's give him a
I
shout
actually
out.
did not get his name. Is that
You wanted to
bad?
remain anonymous.
I did think about doing this, though. I did think about getting a card that says thank you and then just putting it on his door.
Dear Corner
Well,
House.
that would
good.
be nice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
old
thought-
school.
I thought
Nobody
that'd be
handwrites
nice.
anything anymore, and I think
Yeah.
that's
Right?
important.
All right. All right.
You should still type it up and then print it out and then put it on. Just so we stay
yeah.
with status quo.
Okay.
Chris, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I feel like I really became a man the past weekend.
Nice.
Finally,
Okay.
huh? Finally.
About time.
I'm glad it could happen on the show, but
The boys have descended, huh?
no, I decided that I was going to tear up all of my flooring single-handedly, and so I had to go rent a jackhammer, which I put this metal plate on and just tore the whole thing up. The whole house is full of dust. I had to grind concrete, so I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. Not gonna lie.
That was
Yeah.
very impressive.
Hey, there's a
that's
bunch
very
of,
impressive.
bunch of man stuff going on.
The best part about it is now the whole downstairs is concrete, so I can ride my Ouija board skateboard around in the house.
I was doing
that
that,
what you've been
actually. I
doing?
was doing that the other day
Yeah,
over there.
hell yeah. Why not?
I was. Mike, how was your week?
Good, I guess. I mean, I had to start watch. I've been watching that Scream on MTV and writing reviews on our website for it.
Just regretting that decision.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best.
I don't believe you. I'll have to read those reviews.
Yeah, you'll have to read to hear it, but I'm pretty soft on them though.
How many more reviews are you going to do before you stop reviewing?
Oh, I'm
them?
doing the whole show.
Oh.
We're recapping the whole show.
You're putting yourself through that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I like torture.
That's
so that's
terrible.
what I'm doing.
All right, Kyle, how was your week?
My week was good, actually. Very uneventful for the most part. Nothing happened at all to me this week. It was nice. It was a nice change of pace.
Okay, nothing happened
I'd
to you.
rather not have shit going on.
All right, and now it's time for our special guest, Hal Estelle. Hal Estelle, how was your week?
Well, I'm sitting here in a room full of film people, and I'm the guy doing film things this week.
Yeah.
So it was great. I was in San Diego for the weekend screening short films at a convention, Westercom.
Okay, so you picked the movies, or you were just doing the screenings for it? You were just hosting?
Oh, I program mini film festivals at local conventions around the Southwest. I started in Mesa, expanded down to Tucson. Now I'm doing San Diego. They just booked me for LA next year. So it's growing.
Wow.
get people to see short films.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Hal, what all do you do? Where can people find you at? Where can they look up your stuff? Like, let's let the people know.
Well, I'm Hal Estelle. Mostly I'm a film critic. I write at Apocalypse Later, which is my site. That's the reviews of the films that most people don't review. I also write book reviews for the Nameless Zine. I do film festival coverage for Nerdvana. And I also program these mini film festivals, which keeps me busy when I'm not actually getting paid to work.
So he's a real film critic, and we're not. So, so yeah, awesome.
That's why we're happy to have you on the show.
No,
Hal,
I'm
definitely.
very
Thanks
excited
for having
about
me.
this. Very excited to talk about Peter Jackson's Bad Taste. We're gonna get to that when we come right back. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We'll be right back.
I see the gruel is ready. Exquisite bouquet, Robert. Aren't I lucky I got a chunky bit?
All right, guys, and we are back. We are talking about Peter Jackson's Bad Taste. I am your host, Cody Everett. The normal group's in here, but we also have a special guest in Hal, who's an actual critic for Apocalypse. Better than us.
He will be much more factual.
Hal picked this movie. It's called Bad Taste by Peter Jackson. I believe it's his first film, correct?
It's his first film to be released. He messed around on short films in his backyard from the age of 8, so it's his 12th film, but the first one anyone saw.
Okay, the first one that anyone saw. So I asked a question that we usually ask every week. What makes this a cult film?
Well, the audience always makes a cult film. That's what Roger Corman said. You can't make a cult film. The audience makes it for you. And to me, a cult film is one that lasts beyond its sell-by date. And Bad Taste was a very low-budget New Zealand horror movie that was really expected to get viewed a little, get some good response, and disappear. And I'm still watching it 28 years later. I screened it at a convention last year, and it's still as fresh as ever to me. So that makes a cult film.
Okay. Kyle, what do you think makes this a cult film?
I think the gore of it. I think it's got a big. I think people follow that because of that. Like people. I mean, I don't know. Okay, it's gore, but it's also I think that the campiness and cheesiness because it is a short film, or not short film, but it is a small budget film. It's Peter Jackson's, like you said, one of his first distributed ones. So. The fact that he plays multiple characters and multiple people play multiple characters, it's just fun to watch and sit down. It's a fun film. It's really. I think Hal said it was like it was meant to disappear, but it's so enjoyable. Like why would you stop watching this movie?
Okay.
No.
Mike, what do you think makes this a cult film?
I gotta agree with Hal with the audience thing. Although I do have one question: how much did Lord of the Rings, when he started like hitting the mainstream, how much did that affect this film? Did people just go out and try to find everything this guy's done, or did it have a resurgence, I guess, should I ask?
I'm not sure it had a resurgence. Maybe some more people found it, but it's kept an audience through the years.
Oh, for certain, yeah.
But there was a page on the onering.net covering Bad Taste with some interviews and some talk about how he's always wanted to go back and do a sequel, and that's all disappeared. So I think the outcome of Lord of the Rings is, hey, this is big budget, cool stuff. Let's get rid of all that old stuff. Let's not talk about that anymore.
Really? Oh, no. If he did a sequel, I would have to require him to use the same camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. All right, Chris, what makes this a cult film for you?
I just think it's so outrageous. You know, it's just it has so many things that we've since discussed, like since we started the show, which is the blend of comedy and horror and the over the top acting, the just like the violence, but also like the creativity. And I think with this one, it's the do-it-yourself feel that it has, but it's so effective and it's so fun that I think that's what's helped carry it. And I think it's actually, when I watched it, I felt inspired as a filmmaker because I was like, wow, this guy must be he's a genius to think of how to do all this stuff on such a small budget. And I think, you know, people kind of realized that going forward, that this guy had a vision and a style, and it wasn't going to stop for anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the cool thing, the thing I liked, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to other
go ahead,
topics, but that I could see a potential filmmaker in this movie. I could see just like the amount of crane and sweeping shots that he used for such a shoestring budget was. It just had so much production value and so much professionalism that went into the making of it. Like, it was wonderful.
The beauty of it is he made all of that equipment for himself. He didn't go. It wasn't like we can order a crane online right now. He went and built it in his garage out of wood and steel, and like
it's fantastic.
That is, I mean, that's even beyond. That's. I felt. I don't know if this had any kind of influence at all, Hal. Maybe you know, but. It says he was inspired by Tom Savini. I read that somewhere, but I felt a lot of Sam Raimi in his approach to filmmaking.
A little Evil Dead.
Yeah.
He's definitely a fan of Sam Raimi and Evil Dead. He talked about that sort of thing when he did Brain Dead, which you know is Dead Alive, because the comparison with the amount of blood used was to Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2, I think.
Yeah.
He's a Sam Raimi fan. He's a fan of all sorts of stuff. I think the biggest influence was there was a movie called, I think it was Dead End Drive-In, that started the New Zealand gore sort of movement that's still going. You know, it's where Black Sheep comes from and all that sort of stuff. But, Tom Savini is an acknowledged influence. And there's some others. I mean, if you watch carefully at the beginning, there's a few references to Castle Rock just sitting in the background, which is where Stephen King sets most of his stories. There's little nods here and there throughout.
I was wondering actually what that Castle Rock was from. Actually, when I saw that, I was like, I know that, but I don't know why I know that.
Yeah, Castle Rock, Stephen King, but Kaihara, the name of the town that it's set in, is made up. It's Maori for fast food.
Oh.
Which makes sense if you've seen the movie.
Alien fast food.
Yeah. So what I think makes this a cult film, and maybe some people might disagree with this, but when I was watching it, the way I felt, I was like, oh my God, this is a New Zealand trauma movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, this is a New Zealand trauma movie. Like, they literally... It has so many trauma elements to it.
I think it's stylistically and the way it, like visually,
it is better.
The film quality
is better. I think
it's better, but it still has it has the charm.
Yeah, and with the goofy voices and from the henchmen and stuff like that. So
yeah,
excuse me. It's I don't know. I think that's where it is for me. Is like that's kind of what I was like. I was like, oh, this is kind of like a trauma movie.
Pretty much. I mean, the only thing it's missing is that sexual exploitation that's used in trauma so much. I think there's like no women in this film.
I was gonna say, is there a woman in this
There's
film?
like not
I
one.
don't think so.
There's one in the background, right?
There are women in the film. They are playing faceless aliens, so you can't tell. Other than that, you've got a voice at the beginning and a picture of the Queen right at the very beginning.
Right at the beginning.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah, so that's what I think makes it a cult film. And I definitely can going back to your point a little bit, because I did want to talk about this. What I found with it that was a little hard for me and enjoyable at the same time was I found it to be a medley of filmmaking, in the sense that you can tell Peter Jackson was learning and he was evolving as the movie goes on. But it also has that. It's weird because it also has that made at home feel. It almost feels. Sometimes it feels like almost like a high school kid made it. But then other times you're like, holy crap!
Well, the movie was shot over the course of 4 years.
Yeah,
so
4
imagine
years.
how many skills he developed or found out about, and he tried out and executed.
Oh yeah.
And some of it literally was made at home. The alien heads are the shape they are because he baked them in his mother's oven. He literally kicked his parents out of the kitchen, said, I'm taking over, I'm making these heads. And they had to be angled the way they were, the size they were, because that's the shape of the oven.
That's so cool.
That's funny.
I like that he didn't let anything stand in his way. He had an idea, and 4 years, come on, that's a huge commitment to make a film that might not have been widely accepted. I mean, that was a risk, because that kind of gore and that style of filmmaking and everything was, I feel, still kind of fresh. People weren't used to that.
And he adapted. The original lead is the collector who comes to town, and he's waylaid by these. I think they were supposed to be cannibals originally and became the aliens. The actor that played him during the shooting of the film, married a devout Christian woman who didn't like him shooting on Sundays, and they were shooting on weekends for 4 years. So he was moved down to be a small supporting role rather than the lead, and then bumped back up again when he divorced the lady, still through, during the course of filming. So he got married and divorced while they were making this movie.
He was more dedicated to the movie than he was her.
Could be.
Right now, we're going to talk about the story of the movie, in case you haven't watched it yet. So we're going to tell you about it. It's basically Peter Jackson and his friends.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. None of these guys are actors. It's literally his friends, people who were willing to work for free for weekends for 4 years. And they're all, government workers. They're photolithographers at a newspaper. They're not actors. They're not film people in the slightest. That's just Peter Jackson.
So, but from what I got from it, they're like a special task force.
The boys.
The boys, which I love, where they're like they're like, we need real men for this, and it's the boys button.
Yeah, I like the one above it, Mum.
And the one above that says Queen.
Which is also brings me to one of my favorite visuals in that movie. Instead of having a hook hand, it's just a finger, which is amazing. I've never seen that before.
I'm so
that
pissed.
really,
I forgot my notes, but actually the number one item on my notes is hook. Fuck it. Finger hand. That's what I want.
Well, was
Like, how do you
was
pick-
that a wax candle or something that he kept because there was fingers busted off?
No,
of it?
no. He was using to light his cigarettes.
Right.
What was the question I asked him?
I think it was just a big joint.
Did
I
he
like
buy?
those-
Did he buy the wax candle before he lost his hand or after? That's the question I had.
That's the question.
Everything is
finger.
hand inspired.
Band-aid, a cigarette to the tip of it.
That's how you do it.
So they send the boys in basically for this alien invasion, and this alien invasion's happening because humans are the new cow for the universe, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're tasty.
Tasty treat.
Human
That's
flesh
right.
is a new taste sensation sweeping the galaxy. Monkey Yablo's fried boob rat won't know what hit them.
That speech is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the part where I laughed the hardest was during that speech. This shit of a planet or whatever. What's it? Oh God, I can't remember the line exactly. But I like laughed. So I was at work watching it and I laughed so hard. I was laughing so hard. They're like, I was like, people were probably like, what's he doing? But
Not working.
yeah, not working. That's true. I was hungover.
Did you notice the name of the department they work for?
AIDS.
Yep.
It was
Yeah,
AIDS.
The Alien Investigative and Defense Service.
And then it was what? Bread. There was bread also. There's a lot of acronyms in this movie. I noticed that.
Yeah, that's the collector who's come in. He's into town. The town's emptied, basically, and they're coming in to find out why. And this collector's the only other person there. He's come in to collect money, presumably as a scam, because he has to slip a fake dog collar on to impress people. But so he's in danger, and they've got to take care of business.
Here's my question for you guys: is as far as the story goes, because a part of me throughout the story was thinking, was this an expanded short film? Do you think?
Yes, it started out they were going to do a short film for the Wellington Film Festival. It was going to be like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on which interview you read. And then they started shooting it, and when they hit 50 minutes, they realized this was going to be a feature. And I think that's the point he reached out to get a grant from the New Zealand Film Commission to actually put some money into it and finish it up at feature length.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I kind of noticed about the story. I was like, well, there's not too much dialogue, but also which I think is probably their greatest weakness in this film because they don't have real actors.
Well, that too, and like the lack of sync sound too. So less dialogue, better.
Yeah.
In that situation.
I feel like the dialogue grew as the film went on. Like in the beginning, it was just kind of a lot of fighting and like fighting off these aliens, and then it eventually grew into more dialogue, more comedy, really. Like as far as how they were communicating with each other and like all the scenarios that were going on.
Speaking of fighting off the aliens, can we talk about that first chase? Can we call that a chase?
Sure. Yeah.
Peter Jackson,
No.
or I'm sorry, Barry, whoever I forgot the guy was playing Barry. He just seemed mildly annoyed
Yeah, just
by
a
it
little.
the whole time. He's just kind of like, ah.
And they're both going at Jason Voorhees speed. They're not really.
I think it was slower than Jason. He might have been lapping him at some point.
Yeah, it's where they joke about he could be Ministry of Works, but no, he's moving too fast, and he's moving at snail's pace.
And then the lookout at the top of, I'm guessing, is like a mountain or a hill. I've never been to New Zealand.
Yeah, that's Derek.
Yeah, Derek.
Top of the cliff.
Derek's character is also where I get a little confused. I like Derek's character, probably, and I'm skipping ahead on this one, probably my favorite character. He makes me laugh so hard, especially with the Uzi, when he's just like, and he's like making the noises for it as it's shooting, which is, I don't know, I just found
That was
funny.
hilarious.
But I was confused.
Which is Peter Jackson, right?
Yeah, that's Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
He's unrecognizable from the right-hand man, I guess. It would be the alien right-hand man. He's in the most, I would think.
Yeah, the I don't know, the retarded alien.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he actually fights himself on top of a cliff. This is a low budget independent movie, and the ambition just leaps out of the screen. What are we going to do? Well, let me fight myself on top of a cliff and kick myself off.
Well, Jesus, fighting on top of a cliff. I was like, how are these people staying on the edge here? This is like really dangerous. Like how the shots, like the cameras, the small spaces, they were just falling like all over the place. How did somebody not die?
Yeah, I gotta imagine it had to be like trick photography. Like the cliff wasn't that steep, but just looking at it, I was like, really? You want me? Like if I was an actor, it'd be like, and the dude's like slipping, going down when he's gonna go interrogate. He like slips. It's like holy shit. Like,
Well, the way he's trying to keep his balance, I think it leads me to believe that they just angled the camera in such a way that it made it look like you were going straight, but it could have been shot like directly ahead. Like
it worked though. That's the important thing.
It really is a cliff. They really are at
really?
the top. It isn't quite as steep as it looks.
Okay.
They did shoot very carefully, but it's still a cliff. You know, they're messing around on the top with fight scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that opening scene in that set too has like two of my favorite effects in the movie. The sword knife in the foot with the hammer. Holy crap, that made me cringe. That was like, I actually thought about that and I was like, oh God, I don't think I would not be okay. I'd be like, here's what you need to know,
I wouldn't be
bro.
fighting.
Yeah. Here's what you need to know. Okay, we're aliens. Like, we're here to eat you. I would have told him everything. And then my other favorite effect is actually Derek falling off the cliff and that dummy just in like the seating position, rolling down the cliff the whole time. So good.
I thought it actually looked convincing.
It did at first, and then as it keeps following it, as it gets like lower and lower down the cliff, it starts looking kind of bad. But I mean, for the first part of it, I was like, this looks really good. This dummy actually looks really good.
Yeah.
And then Derek, who I thought died,
fucking exploded. When
That's my favorite effect because that one made me cringe the most. Like, so like Derek after falling off the cliff, he like comes to and the back of his head is cracked open on a flap. On a perfect triangle shaped flap, basically.
long weird flap.
Yeah. And like his brain has fallen out, so he picks it up off the ground and pushes it back in, and then at one point, he's wearing a hat to keep the flap closed, and then he's got a belt. Like, I thought that effect made me cringe the most, and it looked like the most convincing.
Throughout the movie, just kept stuffing more brains back in.
Yeah, and eventually he ends up adding alien brains just for good measure because he's really not all there at that point.
Yeah. That's so good.
I like when the flap fell open. He just hit the ground. He was like out.
Yeah, I love that effect, and I had to watch that a number of times to see what he did. But they had him fall backwards from top to bottom, but they had the camera low to high, so it looks like he just snapped in half or something as he falls. It was really well shot.
I got a question about Derek. Do you guys think that Derek is insane?
After the fall or before?
Even before. Doesn't it seem like he's enjoying killing?
He has a personality problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Even his own team call him a dork, Christ, what a dork. How'd he get in this team?
He's probably one of my favorite characters. And as the story goes on, you're introduced to two more characters who are in a badass Ford.
That is the Ford? That is the...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Mustang, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's a Ford Falcon,
it's
right?
a Ford Capri, I think.
I thought that was Mad Max's car, because Mad Max had a Falcon.
It looks pretty damn cool. It's not like a Capri I remember, but that's what they call it in interviews.
And those dudes are sitting in the car for like the first half of the movie.
Yeah, I like how they just happen to stop and they're just chilling out. Like,
and I love the instructions of like, how far are you out? We're 5 miles out. Just stay there.
Yeah,
just stay there. I'm gonna check out don't give me any backup.
that is the one weird thing that for a crack team of manly men that go in and take care of business. They sure are like pretty disheveled in terms of like how they run things.
Yeah, just stay there 5 miles out reading Soldier of Fortune. Yeah.
Yeah. My other favorite part of the movie that I actually really enjoy is the shoes. Am I weird in that? Like, I felt like the shoes are kind of a focal point of the movie.
What shoes?
Like, everybody's wearing tennis shoes, and they bring up several times about their tennis shoes and, like, getting them dirty. Like, I think when they mop up the blood from when they sneak into the house, they mention it. And, like, it's just so funny because they're like, we got to get undercover. And, like, everything is, like, bulletproof vest, hoodie, blacked out pants, blacked out shirt. Tennis shoes, not like not like army boots or tactical shoes. Tennis shoes, like I don't know. That for some reason that stuck with me.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
good. I didn't
if
notice
that's weird.
really,
You
but-
didn't really notice that?
Not
I noticed.
really.
I did notice everybody slipping all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Notice at the end when the guy had like his pants tucked into his socks that were in tennis shoes. I remember that part because he was in like the special forces gear and they like panned down to make it a point to show you that.
I don't remember
So,
that
I don't know. Maybe it was some kind of weird thing that Peter Jackson was trying to say.
about tennis shoes.
yeah. If you're gonna do it in your tennis shoes. That's what it is. We shot this whole movie in our tennis
T-shirt.
shoes.
You're gonna do it in your tennis shoes.
I'm going to have to watch the rest of his early films now and see if that's a theme, because
See if that- yeah.
the Morris Minor is a theme. You know, he uses that in every single film up to, I guess, Lord of the Rings, because they couldn't do it in that. A little bit anachronistic for
Yeah.
Tolkien. But,
All right. Speaking of the director, let's just go into it. Peter Jackson. You know, I think with this movie I think can prove to a lot of people that I know he can do something bigger and better if we give him the right tools. Because honestly, what he did on his own is just flat out amazing.
Yeah.
It's just flat out amazing. So I'm sure people were just like foaming at the mouth to go, let's give this guy money and equipment.
Yeah,
and a real
you got
team.
you got to think that like at the first screeners, if there's any big wig movie people there, they had to think like if there were screeners. I mean,
well,
I don't know.
the premiere was at Cannes,
Okay.
in the
so-
market at Cannes, and it sold to 10 markets in 6 days or something. So, yeah, big wigs were there looking to give money to him.
Yeah, because I mean, like we touched on this when we were during the break, but the end scene with the house, when the house is like lifting up and stuff, like I knew it was a model, but the way it was shot was just so impressive. Like I kept thinking, like, wait, is that a model? How the hell did they pull this off? Like, to be able to do that with basically no budget and doing it all yourself, I mean, it's a sign of somebody who knows what they're doing.
Oh, just and speaking of like just the shot where he shoots the RPG at the house and it blows
yeah.
the side of the house. Dude, that shot's so awesome. I don't think I can remember another film, except for maybe Punisher Warzone, which I don't know which one's better, that has like a full on where you see, the rocket shoot out and actually hit actually go, and it doesn't cut to like a side cut of the rocket or
No,
or
it
something
was
like
a
that.
one take.
It's a one take straight to the house, blow it up. Awesome looking. I was so impressed by that. It was crazy.
I thought all the explosions were great, even the sheep that blew up.
I think it's the best, explosion.
Yeah, the only one that's disappointing is the car. He wanted a bigger explosion, but that was a one take. They didn't have another car ready to go.
Sure.
Which
yeah.
it was a relatively big explosion, I would have to say, right?
Yeah, I was
By
okay with it.
standards,
But,
I'm like, that's fine.
but yeah, that rocket, it's none of the weapons are real. Not one weapon is real. He made them out of aluminium tubes and plasticine, basically, and a bit of wood to put the clips in. The rocket that fires, that's on a fishing line.
Yeah, okay.
And then it hits a model of the house because it's a historic homestead. They couldn't blow that up. They built a 5 meter tall model of that part of the house to explode.
Yeah, I just love the way that was shot. Like, I just thought it was, I don't know.
Well, even the creativity, like, there's another time where he shoots a rocket and it, like, goes through a hole cut in the house and then
Yes.
back out the other side. And I think maybe that's when it hits the sheep.
That's when it hits the
Yeah.
sheep.
Yep.
It's just, like, so clever and creative. It's like, who would think to do that? I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
kind of
that's
creativity.
that's the other influence, I think. Obviously, people see this as a horror movie. There's so much outrageous gore, but it's really a comedy. And the whole Monty Python thing. I'm sure the sheep came from Monty Python. There's so much Python humor in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that. I also, I don't know, man. Like, I think that with Peter Jackson and what he was doing with this film and taking 4 years to make it and stuff like that, it's obviously a labor of love, and you can see it in the film. You can also see. I saw elements of like Lord of the Rings in this that he used from this film. You can tell there's camera movements and stuff like that he used in Lord of the Rings in this movie.
One of the things I love about Peter Jackson is he went on to even do film. Like, you go and you watch Dead Alive after you watch this movie, and it's like he really didn't change as a director at all. He did the exact same kind of stuff with Dead Alive that he did in this film, but he had way more money and a bigger budget and better cast to do it with. And he continued to kind of go that route. I'm a little confused as to how he moved into the Lord of the Rings, because a lot of, like,
Mimic.
I know he did Heavenly Creatures, which is more of a drama.
Mimic also. He did Mimic also, which he hated.
Mimic? He
Right?
didn't
No, that was Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, I'm confusing my two favorite foreign directors.
He did The Frighteners, which is kind of still that horror comedy element,
love that movie.
outrageous, like Dead Alive. I love. I mean, I don't know. I saw so much of him in all of his films leading up to Lord of the Rings. Honestly,
He's a fan. More than anything else, he's a fan. So you look at something like King Kong, that's the most expensive fan film ever made. He made that film because the spider sequence doesn't exist. It's lost. So he made a $300 million movie just so he could recreate the lost sequence. He's a fan. When you look at his early, Bolex shorts that have never been released, he did a lot of war stuff. He got down in the pits with his friends, shooting each other in a sort of a war setting. And horror just happened to be a market that was easily saleable. So really the comedy is the thing that runs through. The horror isn't. It's just what's sold. And when you work through all of his output, it's all fan stuff. The Lord of the Rings, he's a Tolkien fan. He wants to see these films. Nobody else made them the way they should be made, so he did. Same with King Kong.
I am curious if he ever goes back to that, though.
He said in interviews that he would like to go back and make something low budget again. I mean, he said, I don't know what the budgets are for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, but they're
huge.
pretty damn huge.
Yeah.
I think he wants to go back and do something
it's an
really low
interesting
budget.
thing.
He said so in interviews.
It's different than, like, say, Sam Raimi, who has gone back. I mean, he's done, like, A Simple Plan, which is completely different than Evil Dead, and then he goes right back and he does, what is it, Drag Me to Hell, which is kind of like just Evil Dead, really. Yeah.
Well, Sam Raimi realized he lost his soul. I don't want to, really bypass, but I watched an interview with Sam Raimi at the time of Intruder. So he'd done Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and he was talking about money. And when you're a low-budget filmmaker and you don't have any, you've got to, if you want somebody to hover outside the window, you've got to come up with some really ingenious way to do it. But when you're in Hollywood, you've got a big budget, you just ask how much an anti-gravity disc costs. Quote, that's exactly what he said. And you fast forward 10 years from there, and he's modeling every grain of sand in Spider-Man 3 for that whole monster sequence, and he just completely lost his soul. So he realized he had to go back to his roots. I don't think Jackson did. I think he's still being a fan and making the films he wants to see. But I think the sheer scale that he's worked at, and you don't really get any bigger scale than The Lord of the Rings. He wants to go back and do something personal and fun and low budget.
I don't blame him. How long has he been working on the Lord of the Rings movies? Half his life?
Oh yeah.
With all the Hobbits now too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's put so much time into those. I can understand wanting to go and do something else, especially at a lower budget too. Like, so much responsibility on you for those 6 movies.
Yeah. I do have to fault him for the Hobbit thing, though. He turned one book into 3 films.
Well,
that's
Hollywood pressure.
Hollywood dick move.
You know what was missing? They didn't have any Legolas, and he had to bring it in there.
Gotta bring in the Bloom, dude. Gotta bring in the Bloom.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about favorite characters. Kyle, do you have a favorite character?
Derek easily.
Yeah, Derek.
I love when he loses his mind and he's running around with a chainsaw.
Yes.
I love how that was in the back of that car. Was that his car? I don't remember where that car came from actually.
It never says, but we think it's his, or certainly belongs to the team. Even though it's got to be his because you got the whole Sergeant Pepper standing up in the front. I mean, it's
so fucking funny.
So good.
God.
I mean, they're driving.
Yeah,
that's
they're
what it looks
driving.
like.
is that like a
So good.
decoy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was so. I had a double take on that, because I think I glanced down at my phone because I was making notes, and as I looked up, did I just see John Lennon? What am I watching right now?
It's always a flash.
What?
I know the blood splatter with their faces. is really good when he's wiping off the window.
Oh yeah,
So
Oh,
good.
yeah. After he mows down
Yeah.
the dude in the forest, and that giant chunk of intestine hit the hood and stuff. He's just a great character. He's funny. He's bizarre, and just the whole gimmick of him always messing with the piece of brain, trying to get the piece of brain back in his head. It was entertaining the whole time.
The belt around the head.
Yeah.
The belt around the head is one of my favorites. Just,
Totally Rambo.
yeah. Exactly. Mike, favorite character?
Yeah, I'm going to say with Derek, too. One, because he's a member of Gryffindor. That's for sure.
Oh my god! I have it in my notes. I'm like, is that where Harry Potter got the scarf from?
I don't know. But the other thing I really like about his character is that there's kind of like a dichotomy that occurs where he becomes the predator. Like, he's
Yeah,
the
he does.
dangerous thing in the house, not the aliens anymore. And I like that about that character. He kind of goes off as being this meek. You think he's a meek nerd. He's
Yeah.
the scientist. He's the geek, and he's not going to be able to handle himself. Then you learn he has a bloodlust. And then you learn that when he breaks his head open, it just gets magnified by 100. And he becomes a force of nature.
And that's when the boys leave the house.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, they know.
It's not because it's taking off. It's not because there's aliens. It's, holy shit, it's Derek. He's gone apeshit. And they run.
I'm wondering if he would have went after them, too.
Maybe.
If just everyone's fair game.
Oh no, I think he would have. Actually, I think he was that. At that point, that's why he was crazy. That's why they're like, we got to get out of here because
Yeah.
we've never seen him like this before. And he cut his because the time. Like, why wouldn't you just cut a square in the wall?
No,
Like, he cuts out his body.
perfect outline of him holding the chainsaw.
With
Takes so much
chainsaw.
longer.
I mean, if it doesn't work out, alien killing doesn't work out, ice sculpting
It was the
is
same
definitely in his future.
same reason you would do a fucking swan dive into an alien and cut through his entire body.
I think that was like
and
a
come out his ass.
I'm born again.
That's such a great line. I think it was like that was like a throw up to like Looney Tunes. I felt like the whole cutting out like of
Oh,
The outline.
yeah.
I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of this movie. I mean, there's so much slapstick, especially in the beginning. There's a lot of slipping around. I actually originally I had a note when I first started watching. I was like, I love how no one's a badass. But then they kind of become badasses,
Yeah.
and they're crack shots.
Rocket
Crack
Oh, they're
shots.
fantastic
One bullet,
shots.
done. John Wick style. Like,
So good.
Chris, favorite character?
My favorite character is gonna go to Lord Crumb. Is that his name? The main alien boss.
The alien boss. Yeah, Lord Crumb is we think he's Lord Crumb, but Lord Crumb's the head of the company. If he is, I'm not sure.
Okay,
But
well-
he goes by, I guess it's Lord Crumb.
Alien boss,
Yeah.
we'll call him. I loved him. I thought he was great. I
He was
love
great.
that whole scene where he's standing at the top of the stairs and all the aliens are standing around listening to his great plan. And then they start. Then not Derek, but the alien version of Peter Jackson pukes bright green vomit into a bowl, and then they pass it around and all drink from it.
The gruel is ready.
Yeah,
The gruel.
Exquisite bouquet, Robert.
That whole scene is just awesome, and I love how evil he is, and even the voice that they used for him. I don't know if that was the actor's actual voice, but
It's actually not the actor because the actor died in post-production. They had to dub somebody else to do the voice.
it worked out. I mean, it just made him
Yeah.
seem so creepy and slimy and sinister. So I loved him.
Hal, who's your favorite character?
I'm going for Robert, which is the Peter Jackson alien character.
Yes.
He never speaks in the entire movie. He's some sort of alien retard, and I just love him. My favorite bit with him is I mean the gruel's amazing, but where the collector comes upon him in the middle of nowhere, and he just hides the body that he's been eating the brains out of and threatens him with a knife. It's like, keep away from my lunch.
Doesn't he like
I love it.
Doesn't
like
he
ice
stand the
cream.
spoon up in the
Yeah,
head
in the
and then
it's like prison rules.
So good.
Elbows are all
Yeah.
guarded.
I would have to say my favorite character is Derek, like I mentioned earlier. I just thought like that he made me laugh so hard. Like just his lines, the way he did stuff was just it was funny.
the way the character transformed, though. That's like I think that was the best part about it, because I was really sad actually at the beginning when I thought he was going to fall off the cliff. Actually, when the fight began, and I was like, crap, they're going to kill this guy off right off the bat. I'm like kind of enjoying his quirky personality, and then he starts holding his own, and it's like, oh shit, okay, he's going to make it, and then he finally does fall. I was like just like devastated. I was devastated I lost Derek.
Now, does anyone it's kind of hard to pinpoint this, I think, because there's really such a small cast. Is there a least favorite character? I don't really think there is, because the cast is all
Barry's a terrible actor. Whoever
Yeah,
that is,
he's really bad.
God awful.
Oh, they're all horrible actors.
Yeah.
And they'd be the first. They'd agree with you on
The
that.
Collector was my least favorite character.
yeah.
Yeah.
Every time he was on screen, I was just like, bored or something. Or not really. I wouldn't say bored. Just I wasn't like interested in him.
Although when you first reveal him sitting in a giant, 50-gallon drum of stew, that was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
With a what was that, like a lemon in his mouth, or like taped into his mouth?
How is it? You might be wondering why you're sitting in. What is it like?
Reggie's 11 secret herbs and spices. Tomorrow we're having you for lunch.
That's the other thing too. Is like, why do they eat the gruel? Because it's like they're there to get humans to eat for like because it's so delicious. They're like, yeah, we'll just eat gruel.
It's
over
like
here.
it's like the honey. It's like honey to them.
Yeah.
I would imagine
They're
because that's
building up to
essentially
it.
what honey is vomit, bug vomit.
They're like bees.
What?
I don't think I followed
It's
that.
bee vomit.
Yeah.
Essentially, they regurgitate that out.
I think you're digging deep on that one.
Look at
A Cold War moment.
I'm not.
Mike?
I'm not going to challenge your knowledge of honey production, but
They needed a gross out moment. That seemed to fit the bill.
Oh, for sure.
No, it definitely did.
I think it was just it was a snack. It was an appetizer before
Yeah.
the main course. That's all. Because
So-
he actually says they haven't been able to eat once since they landed on this planet. So that was like their first meal, which was the regurgitated brains.
And then he's going to reward them with fresh local meat.
Yep.
What about favorite quotes?
I think I just covered a couple of mine.
Yeah. Anybody else? Because I'll tell you my favorite quote is, and I'm gonna say it wrong because I like, but when he rips the spine out, that's just flailing around. Then which is so cool. It's flailing around, and then he just steps on it and rips the head off. That seems cool, but then he kicks it out the window, and he's like, "Still got the magic." Yeah, still got the magic toss.
That's great.
I laughed so hard at that. I was like, "That's hilarious!" That you kicked a head through. Like, yeah, I still got it. Yeah, I could score a goal easy. I love that. Anybody else?
The AIDS one was mine because I had to go back to it 3 times before I could get the joke. I kept going back. I'm like, I know there's a joke here. I know there's a joke
I wish
here.
we'd change that name.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the problem with me is there's just I feel like every line is a joke, and I can't remember any of them, unfortunately. But I've only seen it once, and I know there's some good quotable stuff in here, so I unfortunately don't know.
You have to pass it to Hal then to fill in the blanks.
Oh, there's a lot of the lines from this film that I've used for the last quarter century. I mean, beyond just good one and bloody oath, but things like, yeah, I just cleaned that bit. Or, nah, headshot's the only true stopper.
Oh, I thought you were left-handed.
Yep.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
switch his hands. So good.
good. All right, guys, let's take a break. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk more about bad taste.
I'm coming to get you, bastards!
All right, guys, we are back, and we are with Hal Stell, and we are talking about bad taste, Peter Jackson's bad taste. One of the things I wanted to get into was the music. I actually really enjoy the music. It reminds me a lot of like the B-movie 80s horror movies that I watched, and hearing those. The music reminds me a lot of Tom Savini's remake of The Night of the Living Dead, which is weird because it came after this movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was 91, I think.
Yeah,
92.
which is weird, but that's what the kind of the music is similar to.
It's not that, but yeah, they're like a lot of 80s. I mean, you can look at Slumber Party Massacre and stuff like that, but it just always has these unknown rock bands playing like these, just these like steady rock beats with like very little or minimal lyrics that's happening just to drive it. Like, I think a great movie is Sleepaway Camp 2 if you want that. That's like you can actually do a shot game out of how many times does like speed metal start playing in the middle of that movie. You'll be trashed by 30 minutes in.
Is me or was there music playing from start to end in this film?
There was.
I don't ever remember there being like any silence, really. I think that there was probably music through 90% of the film.
I think
scored.
I think there were points of
scored
silence, right? It wasn't scored 100%.
Again, I don't.
The score came in from the New Zealand Film Commission when they put in some money to finish the film. So Michelle, somebody or other, I can't remember her name, came in and did the score. But the music, you mentioned unknown bands. That's because it's the cast. The cast were the crew, and they did everything around. So Mad Light, who do the theme tune and the other song, the Remnants do the theme tune. Mad Light do the other song, Rock Lies. That's Mike Minott's band. He's the leader of the Alien Investigative and Defense Service.
That's awesome.
So yeah, the guys who were in the cast were the crew, were the musicians, were the everything. The carpenters and the, you name it, they did it.
That's awesome.
That's insane.
Do you know if did Peter Jackson take a lot of these guys with him when he started doing more films, or did people kind of drop off?
That was a question I
Only
had.
one. You'll see the name Jamie Selkirk. I think he's the editor. He's stayed with Peter Jackson throughout, so I think he's even working on the Lord of the Rings movies. He followed him all the way through, but everybody else just went back to work. Yeah, they're just guys.
I put them through 4 years.
That was one of my notes too. Where are they now?
So one of the things I also want to talk about is the effects of this movie, which I was shockingly surprised by. I think they're fantastic, especially the aliens when they transform into their true form. Looking at the cover of this movie, you know what they're going to look like, but I didn't think they were going to look that good, as good as they did.
Yeah, I thought I was really actually expecting Rubber Mask.
Oh yeah, so was I.
But they've got shoulder, they've got giant ass thigh bone things that stick up behind them,
and the face moves. How did they do that? How did they make that face just make expressions and talking and all that?
Yeah, that was a fiberglass thing. Peter Jackson's an effects guy from way back before he even made this, so he's learning all of these techniques. And that one was fiberglass with some sort of piano wire to pull the latex.
Oh, so they have a puppeteer kind of moving this thing? Or?
I presume so.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
there's a documentary, and anybody that watches Bad Taste, I recommend you look for Good Taste Made Bad Taste, which I think is now on YouTube, so it's easy to find. And it shows you a lot of the tools that they used, the effects that they did, and how they did them. And it's amazing to watch and realize this guy's a 25-year-old. He doesn't have a clue how to make movies, and he's doing these amazing things like it's nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that documentary because I want to learn from what they did, basically. Yeah.
Super ambitious.
Because that's the other thing. Yeah. That's the other thing too. We me and Chris have a saying when it comes to filmmaking that I think this movie reigns true on more than probably any other movie that I've seen, and that is simple is good. You know what I mean? As far as this movie's simple. There's not a lot of sets. It pretty much takes place in a central location that is, I guess New Zealand is what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, it almost feels empty, which the town is supposed to be. But I mean, it also sets up for how the script is set up to film without having to get locations. Does that make sense? So it's hey, this whole first 20 minutes of the film happens on a cliff. We don't have to go get a location. We just go out to the cliff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's brilliant.
It's set up to be simple.
It's set up to be simple and shot that way. You could tell that there's preparation in okay, we see the challenges ahead of us in the writing of the story. They wrote a sci-fi alien movie, and they didn't go too extravagant with it. And when they did go extravagant with it, they pulled it off amazingly just by sheer will. So, I mean,
for a $25,000 movie, I think they went really extravagant. They blew up a house, they blew up a car.
Yeah,
they had a house fly. I mean, as a low budget filmmaker, those aren't things you generally expect to do in your low budget film.
But they also set it up in such before all that stuff happens, it's all simple. Like I said, simple locations where it's not hey, we got to go ask these people, can we use your supermarket? Hey, we got to ask these people, can we, use this part of your house to shoot this, or we need this and this and this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of that in there, but just most of the locations are outside in a neighborhood, and they put a really good story behind just simpleness, which is hard to do.
does make making it does make a filmmaker who like us, like at least for me, it made me feel like doing a feature, as long as I was willing to put the same amount of time, maybe hopefully not 4 years, but it's attainable.
Yeah. No.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like it is and it isn't. It's simple in story, but it's complex in design. Like the sheer ambition of like being able to pull off all of the major effects in this film and have so many minor effects that happen in between. It's like you almost have to keep the story simple because that's obviously not your main focus. It's aliens in a town that are trying to eat people, and that's it. And they're, like you said, keeping the location simple enabled them to make the effects grand.
I agree. And it puts the focal on it. I think it puts the focal on the effects and how the movie's shot also. Like, because you take these simple locations, they could have shot these locations so boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And instead, I feel like they were like, okay, we have these locations that are
make the most of what you got.
Pretty simple. So let's just go balls to the wall with crazy ideas in our heads of how to film this.
And every shot is like moving in or pulling out or panning or craning or, Dutch angled. Like it's never standard ever. And that like actually goes through to like Dead Alive and his later films. Which is what made me think of a Sam Raimi film, because that is kind of I saw a similar shooting style, I guess.
No, I agree. There's stuff like that when he takes off the gloves and throws them like towards the camera. I love that shot. Both of those are fantastic. So I mean that I is inspiring. It really is. That every time I see something like that where I'm just like, damn, that's so easy, but it's not.
I need to work harder.
It's like you make hard look easy, so he's talented. You know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at it, like from like a filmmaker's standpoint, you're like, this is actually really technical and really hard to pull off. And how in the hell did they do this?
It's
like,
a really fun textbook.
It is,
because once you start realizing, we did this because of that. You realize that all the angles are there for a reason. We move out because there's a reason. We move in because there's a reason. We look up because there's a reason. And it really, really works as a really fun textbook.
I agree. All right, man, let's get down to the meat and potatoes. Wait, do we want to talk about the seagulls first? Do we want to talk about them?
It'll be a good lead into the
I love the
system.
seagulls, but I think it's one of the worst effects. There's a couple of effects in the movie that are really bad. We talked about one before we began where Derek is... he's just killed one of the aliens, and he still comes forward and hits him, and he just screws the gun through the guy's chest and starts killing people from there. And you can see the foam. I mean, it's really obvious. This is foam covered in blood, and it's really bad. And the other really bad one's the seagull. He headbutts the seagull when he gets up, and it's this little clockwork wooden thing with the feet waggling around as it dies. It's a horrible effect, but it's still so much fun.
It is.
So dead seagulls. How many dead seagulls?
We are going to rate this in dead seagulls, everybody. Let's start with Mike. Mike, how many dead seagulls?
I would give this film, I'm going to go with 4 dead seagulls.
Wow,
and
that's high.
I will, because here's the thing. It reminded me of the love that I felt when I saw Evil Dead. Like, Confessions of a B-movie actor, If Chins Could Kill, that book made me want to be a filmmaker. I ran straight to film school after I read that book. And it was all that do-it-yourself kind of mentality that, I wouldn't say guerrilla filmmaking, but definitely like, listen, you don't have any money, you get as creative as you possibly can. You don't have a steady cam, make one out of Vaseline. Like that film, this film had that same feeling to me. So I can't help but love it. Like, I just can't help but love it.
Okay. Kyle?
I'm gonna agree with what Mike said. I love the film. I love the way that it's shot. I love the crazy characters. It is something I could definitely see myself watching, actually, quite a bit now that I've discovered it. So I'm gonna also give it a 4. I'm not gonna give it a 5. I don't quite say it's 5 stars. I mean, realistically, terrible acting that's happening in the whole film. I mean, but. Other than that, for what he had and what he had to work with, Peter Jackson did a phenomenal job. So 4. Okay. 4 dead seagulls.
4 dead seagulls. Chris, how many dead seagulls are going to flock this one?
I'm gonna also give it. I'm also giving it 4 actually, because just as you know, as a filmmaker, you got to respect Peter Jackson for what he's doing here. You got to respect his just his sheer ambition and his talents. You know, to be able to pull something like this off. It's not a perfect movie. You know, some of the shots are kind of bumpy and out of focus, and you know, some of the effects are cheesy, but there's so many good ones to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you love horror and you love comedy, this is definitely a film you can get down with. I'm giving it a 4.
4 Dead Seagulls from Chris. I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna give this. I don't know yet. I'm gonna talk my way through it. So I personally believe. Thanks for bringing up film school, Mike, because we've had this discussion before. I personally believe this should be on the last day of film school. We show you this movie as fucking motivation to get out there and do it, because that's exactly what I got from this movie. I watched this movie and I said to myself, I could make this movie, and I didn't mean that in a disrespectful way. I meant that. This was This is obtainable for anyone. Peter Jackson made it look like it was obtainable for anyone if you just put the work in.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what this movie shows. But I also think it also shows on how to film a movie, because that was the most impressive thing to me. It's just how this movie was shot, and how to progress as a filmmaker. It shows all of that. So. I'm gonna agree with The Room. I'm gonna give it 4 because I don't think, again, it's not a perfect movie, but dear God, if you're an inspiring filmmaker, please watch this movie because it will inspire you. I really truly believe that. So 4 Dead Seagulls for me. How many Dead Seagulls are you gonna give this?
Oh, I get a pick. Well, it's a gimme for me. It's my favorite film of all time. No, it's not perfect. For all the reasons that you mentioned, Dead Alive is a much better movie, technically much better acting, much better everything. But this is the fun one. I've seen this movie over 100 times, so I mean it's always 5 Dead Seagulls for me.
5 Dead Seagulls, guys. That's our show this week. Next week, what are we doing, Kyle?
Oh, Night of the Comet.
We're gonna do Night of the Comet next week.
Bitchin'.
So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Cult Film and Review. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at CultFilm_review. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at CultFilm_review. Mike, where can people find you at?
They can find me on Twitter at Mike Salustio, and they can find me writing about filmmaking stuff at friendlyneighborhoodfilmmaking.com.
All right, anybody else want to plug anything before we get to Hal?
I just want to plug one thing. If anybody has any suggestions for films that maybe you'd like to hear us do on the show, we'd love to hear it. We want to give our listeners an opportunity to speak up and say what they would like, what films they would like to know more about, or what they would like to hear us discuss. So,
yeah,
so please
definitely
leave us a message.
We don't know all the movies, so if there are some gems out there we haven't heard of, we want to watch them.
Definitely. All right, Hal, where can people find you at? How can they get a hold of you if they want? How can they, attend your short films that you're showcasing? Where can they do all that?
Easiest bet is to go to Apocalypse Later at apocalypselaterfilm.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm easy to find. I'm the only one named Hal Estelle, and I'm the one in the octopus goggles, so it's pretty easy to find.
All right, guys, that is our show. Join us next week. Thanks for listening.